Hello everyone, this is Crota giving you a shoutcast between NightEnd and NaaMa here on Kulas Ravine. We have NightEnd spawning as the blue Protoss player over here at what I'll call the 2 o'clock position. Meanwhile, NaaMa spawning to the south position of him over here at the 5 o'clock position as the green Terran. Lately, a lot of the Terran replays that I've been watching have been really conservative. Terran generally likes to move out with either really small armies, deal with harassment, or pressure with harassment, and then just macro up to have a very strong army. That's one of the benefits of the Terran army. They're not very strong by themselves, but once they're together with all that range and once they're all set up, the Terran position is very difficult to take down. Already we now see a probe coming out from NightEnd. NightEnd scouting what looks to be in the right direction. We'll see. He's going to go ahead and he's going to go ahead and scout in the right direction. I thought he may have gone up to that ramp, try to activate that Xel'Naga watchtower to reveal more of the map, but no. In comes NightEnd. NightEnd with this probe going to go ahead and scout out NaaMa, opening up with a standard 12 racks build. So we should see a barracks right here in this position. Oh no, wait, where's the barracks? There it is. So barracks being placed down here. The barracks, when it's placed down here, is more of a defensive measure. It's gonna make it very difficult for zealots to really be able to come in and come around. Most likely another supply depot built in here, so any marines and marauders sitting within this circle are fairly well protected, and then one supply depot can be lowered in order to pull back and try to move out units more effectively. A probe once again trying to harass the SCV building that barracks, and now probe and SCV duking it out. The probe quickly pulls away as soon as all of his shields are gone, and he may try to come back for another fight as those shields regenerate so quickly. Back over here, NightEnd now getting a second pylon, and we should be seeing a cybernetics core sometime soon. But without the tech lab down, NightEnd may try to go for a 2-gate, but I still can't imagine that could be the place. Yeah, the assimilator is already down, so in comes that cybernetics core, and now. Probe just still wandering around on the inside of that base. Marine gonna go ahead and hop on out and gonna force the little probe to run on home. Back over here, SCV continuing to do some more scouting as well. Perhaps gonna try to check out the back door. No, just hiding within this circle of brush right here. So gonna hide those units over here as a bunker now being placed down over here on the front door. Try to get a little bit more of a defensive play, and a reactor core being placed down. Now, a reactor core, an early reactor core on a barracks normally means that he's going to try to be going for Hellions, but I cannot imagine that to be the case, as Hellions are not that efficient against Protoss unless you're able to do some sort of run-by and then hit straight to these probes. So we'll see what's really going to be happening. Factory now being laid down, barracks going to be finished up, and really with that reactor, he'll be able to train up some double Marines, but without the researches, without the combat shield, without the stim packs, the Marines are not nearly as a devastating force. Out comes the Stalker. Stalker going to make short work of that one SCV. SCV going to go ahead and run around, maybe able to escape. No, going to run into the path. Down goes that poor SCV. Still, yeah, barracks finishing with that reactor. Now most likely barracks should lift off. Gonna go ahead and do a little bit of an add-on switch. No, gonna go ahead and train up 2 Marines before that even happens. So just to prove me wrong, NaaMa. Okay, so and now gonna go ahead for a factory. Wow, so is it gonna be? This is an interesting build. So training up Marines probably is going to be Marines and siege tanks without no additional research. Stalker's now moving in, and NightEnd now going to go ahead and place down a pylon. So he may be trying to go for he's going to be going for a 4-gate push with that cybernetics core, finishing that warp gate research. Warp gates are now going to go ahead and complete. And now Stalkers will be able to go ahead and push on in with no probably sentries going to be warped in. No Stalkers and no double Stalkers, so no sentry is being warped in either. Sentry is usually being warped in order to get that Guardian shield. Those Marines all of a sudden, instead of dealing 6 damage, dealing 4, and that is a significant drop off in terms of DPS there. We had a couple, now once again warping in more units, so it's going to be more Stalkers. So NightEnd going mass Stalkers. Now with the mass Stalkers, I would have assumed that he would be trying to go for doing a little bit of micro here, doing a good job microing, keeping that lower hit point Stalker in the back so he can continue to regenerate those shields. That bunker down to 140 hit points, and now pulling away 2 of those stalkers in the red, 1 of the stalkers in the orange, and those stalkers are not going to really be able to deal all that much. Zealots now being warped in as well, but those zealots, without any additional zealot charges, it's going to be very difficult for them to really close that distance and put pressure on this bunker. So in come the zealots now coming in. Zealots quickly getting taken down by this siege tank over here, but down goes that bunker. So the front door has been broken. Marines now coming in as well. Second bunker being placed in, trying to focus down more of these SCVs. NaaMa losing a lot of harvesters and a lot of harvesting time, but the siege tank getting siege mode just at the right time, able to get off 1 blast. And now these stalkers are going to be forced to sit out here, as there's also a Viking now going into that ground mode. And this must be a very old replay, as this Viking has a 14 damage on his Gatling gun instead of 12. I can no longer check what version of the replays they are, since I can't log in like I normally do to StarCraft, since the beta has currently been closed. Siege tanks now getting a couple blasts in. Viking pulling back. Viking fighting, gonna go ahead and be able to fight back against this whole entire attack force. Siege tanks still dealing that 60 damage. And Marines just trying to rip through the rest of this whole entire attack force. NightEnd may have just timed this push all too perfectly, may be able to go ahead and start focusing down some of these SCVs as well. No additional army units from NaaMa, only 2 Marines. 2 Marines fighting against 3 stalkers. Not really a fair fight at all, as more zealots now coming in. So this 3-gate warp gate push, the timing was just absolutely perfect. More siege tanks coming in, 1 Banshee coming in, no cloak being researched, as Marines once again on the engagement. SCVs now coming out, and in comes 1 siege tank. That siege tank can go ahead and start shooting with that range of 7, taking down some of those some of those zealots. But the stalkers should now be able to focus down that siege tank fairly easily. The siege tank needs to siege up here, and then get some SCVs to go perhaps repair it. Leave that Banshee close by, and now all those stalkers are getting choked up right in between these 2 buildings, and that's just really, really bad news for that 1 siege tank should be able to continue to push or hold off the pressure there. The NaaMa staying calm under pressure, as this NightEnd continue to produce more stalkers, finally getting an immortal in play, chrono boosting the warp gates in order to speed up their cooldown and be able to warp in more units. 1 probe sitting here, more zealots being warped in. No sign of a sentry just quite yet, and probably should be chrono boosting the immortal as well. The immortal will be a very, very large portion of this army. There we go, chrono boosting that immortal, so that immortal is going to go ahead and pop on out, and the immortal dealing 50 damage a shot. So really a good counter to the siege tank. The siege tank only able to deal 10 damage per attack, while the shields are up. As long the Banshee, however, may be able to burn through those shields. The Banshees have a very, very high rate of attack, so per round of attack the Banshee is able to deplete 20 shields respectively. We finally have NightEnd going to go ahead and set down an expansion over here at his natural, and I'm not quite sure what he's doing with all of these stalkers. Stalkers just moving back and forth. This is just a nice transition into the mid game now for NightEnd and NightEnd and NaaMa, both players realizing that what they were trying to do earlier in the game is not going to work. NightEnd rightfully deciding to pull off on his attack, knowing that the pressure is not going to deal nearly as much damage as he wants to. A Banshee sitting over here acting as a little bit of a scout, and we do have cloak being researched. So as this cloak is being researched, the Banshee just hiding out over here. I do not see a single observer, however. So with no observers, NightEnd may lose a lot of these probes. There is also no forge, a Twilight Council being laid down, so we may get a little bit of blink action in play very shortly. Coming in, siege tanks, gonna go ahead and siege up. There's 3 siege tanks, very, very well positioned. Stalker's gonna have a very difficult time trying to push on through. And now we're probably gonna see a command center, gonna go ahead and try to lift up and take that high yield. In comes this Banshee, but perfect timing on this observer. Now right next to that Banshee, gonna go ahead and just keep track of them, as there's 3 stalkers here. And now both sides just macroing up their armies. NightEnd sitting on a 2200 army versus NaaMa's 1550. Stay tuned for part 2 of this replay between NaaMa and NightEnd here on Kulas Ravine.